Okay, I'm here with Jason Byrne of the Irish Sun and Michael Verney from the Irish Independent. We're going to go and have a look at the best Donegal team from the last 20 years. Now, Jason, you decided to put it out in the Sun on Monday. You are a Donegal man. Did it go down fairly well, or how was it received?
Bit of a mixed bag, Shane, as it always is with these things. Like it's all subjective, really. It's a bit of crack, like depending on what house you grew up in, would probably make up the guts of your team. Like with plenty of hop off it on social media and everything else about few disagreements with different selections all throughout the team. A few of them obviously nailed on, and no arguments with a lot of them, but. A few leaders and that were unhappy with different selections, but you're always going to have that anyway, aren't you?
And I suppose you probably went in heavy on your own parish, did you?
Well, my own parish, I hadn't like too much to pick from, bar in terms of the last 20 years, bar Hugh McFadden and one Van Gallagher. Now, if you were to pick this team again in 5 years, the two lads would probably definitely be on it. I got nearly silence from both of them this week, so maybe they're not happy with me. I'm not sure. And like if you went back maybe to the 90s as well, like nailed on, then you'd probably have Manus Coyle and Barry McGowan. So there was a period there through the noughties where our own Killybegs club didn't have stars on the team, particularly in 2012 when they won the All Ireland as well, which obviously the team makes up the bulk of those lads too, because they got back to a final in 2014 and a lot of those players won 5 Ulster titles as well, when there'd been such a famine for that in the county too. So those successes under Jim McGuinness in particular weighed heavily in a lot of the selections too, and a lot of the other players that have come to the fore under Declan Bonner as well.
Before I bring in Michael Verney, we must say that your parish would have also been further represented if Seamus Coleman had to stick to the right code.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, God, big loss for the club. Never say never. Hopefully he's back someday. Don't forget we've got Sean Kelly at Finn Harps as well. He's busy. He was busy picking up plenty of yellow cards in the League of Ireland before the coronavirus shut everything down. So it'd be nice to see him coming back playing a bit of Gaelic football too. We've Jason Octor, who was on the panel in 2011 under McGuinness. He's actually the captain of Donegal Boston. So he was Jeremy Conley's captain. He was out there and they've won loads of championships out in the States, so it'd be great to get him back at some point too. He's a great wee fiery defender, so if we got him and Coleman and Sean Kelly all back at some stage, we'd have the bones of a great team again.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing so bad. Michael Verney, what do you think? Is this going to be heavily kind of leaning towards the team that Jim McGuinness had for those 4 years?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And there'd probably be a couple of lads even that weren't there for the All Ireland in 12 that were there in 11. I'd imagine that we picked as well. Fair play to Jason though, because a lot of no matter what you do, and no matter how much thought you put in it, no matter how many people you talk to and deliberate and make sure that you're not forgetting anyone and you have everybody in there that should be in there, there are still going to be noses out of joints. So yeah, the reaction he's gotten so far has been interesting. I'd say he's probably going to get further reaction on top of this as well.
Jason, I'm going to bring it up on screen. Will you just talk me through some of the team? Maybe even just go through the whole of the team. You don't need to go in depth on everyone, but just call out your team and I'll just bring it up on screen.
Okay, well, to kick off, Paul Durkin in goals, no brainer for me. A lot of people seem to think his career's been overshadowed by that mistake he made in the 2014 All Ireland final, but I think anyone from Donegal would give rubbish that. He's been a great servant for the county. Was there for so long, and there was a lot of disappointment when he left for Qatar at the end of the 2015 season, and he's back on board now, and he hasn't played since he came back to the panel last year, but just to have him there has made a massive difference, for the goalkeepers and Sean Patton in particular. Like you'll see, I can guarantee you'll only see Sean improve even further with Papa there in the background. So he was a new contest in goals. Of course, he won a Club of Ireland as well with Ballybones and Enders. He was a massive player for them that year too before he emigrated. Then Paddy McGrath, cornerback. There was lots of debate over this one. People calling for Paddy's head, maybe in favour of Eamon McGee or his own clubmate Damien Dubber. But I think Paddy's just been such a great servant too. He always talks about his infamous debut in 2010 against Armagh when he thought his inter-county days were over before they even started, but he's gone on to become such a servant for the county. He's rehabbing from a second cruciate injury at the minute, so I definitely think there's another couple of years left in him. Neil McGee, fullback, no-brainer for me. Absolutely changed the game for Donegal defenders. He always, he was there before the Jim McGuinness era. Of course, he won that league title in 2007 under Brian McGyver. But just the way he loves to get in your face and takes no nonsense, and he was massive in those days when Tyrone and Armagh's dominance in Ulster was shifted and Donegal started to mount a serious challenge. Frank McGlynn in the other corner. Of course, you could play Frank at wing back too. You could play Frank anywhere. And Declan Bonner described him as a Rolls Royce fuckler when he retired last year. He was nominated for Fuckler of the Year in 2012. A lot of people thought he should have got that award. And just a magnificent athlete, goes about his business, shies away from the limelight, always let his football do the talking.
We'll stop you there. Any thoughts on that full back line, Michael Verney?
Yeah, it's a brilliant full back line. As Jason said, I'd say probably Eamon McGee is probably one of the the modern day players or in recent years that would feel hard done by. Damien Diver was always, I thought, I big fan of Damien Diver. Thought he was an outstanding player over a long period of time. Was obviously involved in the league winning team. Was involved in the management team then as well. I He had 2-2 scored off him, and it looked like his career was in jeopardy, as Jason says. But he was brilliant under McGuinness, and has been brilliant under Gallagher and Bonner as well, despite a couple of big injuries. But Damien Diver, I thought Damien Diver was outstanding on a team that wasn't going particularly well. There was a couple of flashes here and there, but there was probably more low points maybe than high points. And I thought he was outstanding. He's probably the only one. As Jason said as well, like Sean Patton in 10 years' time, maybe it'll be probably a really, really fair battle between him and Durkin. But Durkin is the outstanding choice there. Just on a point Jason made as well. Some people, and to be honest with you, it's idiotic to even be talking about it, but there are some people that would maybe say that Durkin's reputation or whatever is tarnished as a result of that All-Ireland final, which is it's absolute nonsense. It's one mistake basically throughout his whole nearly inter-county career. If you could find another significant mistake throughout his inter-county career, I'd be very, very surprised. And everybody talks about the 2014 game against Dublin. Like, Dublin would have been out of sight had it not been for him probably making a save. But during that point where they were about 9-4 down and under all sorts of pressure, he was outstanding, and he killed Dublin with his long kickouts that day as well. He kind of Durkin was one of those guys that revolutionised the goalkeeping position. Probably not talked about enough, but yeah, he's a class player. Damien Diver is the only one. I'd leave the other four. I'd leave the other three. I'd probably put Diver in cornerback, but that's maybe a personal thing as well. When you just have an affinity with a player, and particularly in defensively, I would have had a great affinity to him. Thought he was a brilliant defender.
Yeah, I'd struggle to pick between them two as well, but Paddy McGrath isn't called animal for nothing, and yeah, you wouldn't get a whole lot of change off him, and he often takes up the toughest task. Moving on to the half back line, Jason.
Yeah, half back line then. So I've got Ryan McHugh, Darrell Lacey, and Kevin Cassidy. McHugh again nailed on. It's still hard to believe he's only 26, and hopefully he does get an All-Ireland medal before he finishes up, because a lot of the boys on the team here have one, and he would definitely deserve one. Magnificent footballer. Always gets a lot of harsh treatment from opposing teams, who often their only option is to just foul him. Like, he was footballer of the year, young footballer of the year in 2013 or 14, I think. Michael mentioned that Dublin game there in 2014, in the All-Ireland semi-final. He absolutely terrorised them. He was at the core of that plan to take down that Dublin team, and of course scored 2 goals to sink them. And his pace and the way he keeps the ball and the way he reads the game and everything is just second to none. And he's got so much more time left in his inter-county career. Football's his life. He lives and breathes it, and you can tell. And he's just, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. Hopefully there's another decade left in him, in the books of it anyway. Carl Lacey, no-brainer again for me, number 6. 2012 Footballer of the Year. Of course, was around for a long time too before the success under Jim McGuinness. Had a couple of All-Stars under his belt already before those All-Irelands came, and just a brilliant footballer. Was unlucky with the knees and the other injuries that caught up with him towards the end of his career, but he was just brilliant, and he probably would have been he probably would have been captain of the team in 2012 if Michael Murphy wasn't there too. And the other side, I've gone for Kevin Cassidy. Again, got a bit of hop over this. Cass, a controversial figure, of course, departed the fold under a cloud in 2011. And other people calling here for maybe Dever to be there instead of Cassidy as well. I'd win back, but for me, maybe it's just a personal thing too. For me, I just adored him when he played for Donegal. I thought he was just such a warrior, and his point against Kildare in that 2011 All-Ireland quarter-final was just such a seismic moment in Donegal GA. Like, when they were so many times Donegal teams had gone to Croke Park and were put to the pin of the collar like that by teams and just faded. But that moment, signified a big shift in the mindset in the county, and it was such an inspirational score, and it paved the way for what happened after that. That Donegal weren't going to be rolled over anymore, and that's why he's in there for me.
Was there any consideration for putting Diver in there and moving Frank McGlynn out to the half back line? And if you did, it would actually be very hard to drop any of the three that you had there in 5, 6 and 7.
Yeah, there's a few of those different variations you could make, Shane. Like McGlynn was so versatile, you could have moved him up or down, and if you did get Eamon McGee or whatever in there, a lot of people would have Cassidy as the fall guy. So again, like, it's just subjective. It's horses for courses too. Like, it's depends what house you grew up in. It depends, it's everything. Like,
yeah, Michael, what do you think?
I think when you name out that half back line, it's absolutely outrageous. Like, you do well across any team, picking any county team over the last 20 years to find a better line than that. That is an absolutely outstanding line. I don't even think it's open for debate about Kevin Cassidy. Genuinely don't even think it's open for debate. Me and you, Shane, picked the best team in the last 25 years that hadn't won All-Ireland, and Kevin Cassidy was on it. And the only reason Ryan McHugh wasn't on it is because he's still playing and probably got, as Jason says, probably got the guts of another decade ahead of him. A brilliant team. Lacey, obviously, Footballer of the Year. Yeah, that half back line is going to be hard matched. You can go through every county in Ireland and pick their best team in the last 20 or 25 years, and you'll do well to best that. That's an absolutely outstanding line. I couldn't leave any of them out, and you couldn't really, unless you put McHugh wing forward, you couldn't really play any of them anywhere else. So I think Jason has that one spot on, absolutely spot on.
Jason, we'll move into the half forward line, or sorry, midfield, obviously. That's obviously next. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, Neil Gallagher, number 8, again, nailed on for me. Was just an absolute colossal midfielder for the county for so long. 6'4", was a former captain as well. Was massive in that 2012 campaign, and just that game against Cork there, in semi-final against Cork again, when they were really up against it. He was plucking balls out of the sky. He was winning everything that came near him, and he was just dragging the team forward, and he dragged them over the line that day. I thought he was just absolutely immense. And he was the same in the final against Mayo and all through that campaign. But that Cork team was one of the best displays I've ever seen from a Donegal player at Croke Park. And he got 3 Ulster medals as well. And it was just great for him that he got that All-Ireland success, because he was one of those lads that definitely deserved it. When you think of all the other players he soldiered with at the start of his career, he left with new championship silverware. He was kind of representative of that era too, because he'd been around for that. So many of those dark days too. So he was absolutely nailed on for me. And I have his clubmate Michael Murphy in midfield beside him. And a lot of people would argue that Rory Cavan has been hard done by here, which is a completely fair argument. But the only reason I have Murphy midfield is because I could not leave out any of the front 6 that I've selected.
But Jason, you have 2 lads who, like Rory Cavan is a brilliant midfielder. Obviously, they're all brilliant players, but like, you often have Michael Murphy and Neil Gallagher actually one swapping from midfield to full forward and vice versa. Surely you could have found some place in the forward for Michael Murphy, arguably the best forward of the absolute lot of them. So the best forward that you've had, arguably of all time, can't even get into your best forward line in the last 20 years. You're an absolute disgrace, Jason. He's lifted 5 of your 10 Ulster titles all time.
Yeah, I couldn't leave out any of the front 6. I thought it would have been.
But put someone else midfield. Put one of the other forwards midfield.
No, I don't think I've selected Michael Hegarty at centre forward. You maybe could have been on midfield. swap them for Murphy. Maybe that's an option, all right. But
Christy Toy?
Yeah, you could put Toy in midfield as well. Yeah, he's done a job there before. But I just prefer Toy and there going forward. We get more. Yeah.
Michael, does he deserve every bit of abuse he's after getting?
I just couldn't have Murphy midfield. While he's played midfield a lot, I'd have to have him in the forward line. I couldn't have him midfield when you have an outstanding candidate waiting in the wings. Like Rory Kavanagh, to me, is a brilliant midfielder. He was instrumental, particularly under the McGuinness reign. He was even brilliant before that as well. I'd have to have Rory Kavanagh on the team, and I'd push Murphy up into the forwards at the expense of one of the six he's picked. I think you have your midfield pair, and through that golden era with Donegal, you have Gallagher and Rory Kavanagh together. I wouldn't break up that. I'll argue with Jason over one of his forwards and the positioning of one of his forwards when we get to it.
Okay, Jason, go ahead. Let's hop into the forward line. You've upset us now. You have our blood up.
Okay. Good. Half forward line: Adrian Sweeney, Michael Hegarty, and Christy Toy. Sweeney again falls into that bracket. One of the lads who were just so unlucky not to win any championship silverware. He got an All-Star in 2002 or 2003, I think. Lost so many Ulster finals. It's devastating when you list them out. Like 1998, 2002, 2004, and 2006. 98, they lost against Derry. That infamous late Joe Wally goal when he blew us all kisses. And then 3 finals then against Armagh. Just could not beat Armagh in championship football during that period at all, and even the likes of Sweeney couldn't get us over the line. He was just such a score taker. He got a very late equaliser in the 2002 quarter final against Dublin, the infamous one when a lot of them probably had a few too many pints that night and got battered in the replay of it. That was one of his real inspirational performances when he was coming maybe towards the later days of his career. He was just a marquee forward. I think he'd be on anyone's team there. And Michael Hegarty, centre forward, retired in 2011. I'm sure that's a decision that he really lived to regret, but it's one that shouldn't taint a brilliant career he had. He was such a reliable forward for Donegal. He was so honest, again, shied away from the limelight, let his football do the talking, really leader in the side as well. And I'm sure Jim McGuinness done his best to persuade him to stay after 2011, but Hegarty felt at the time he couldn't give any more and just missed out on that All Ireland. But he did get his Ulster medal in 2011, which is some sort of consolation for him. And then Christy Toy on the other side, rejuvenated when McGuinness came in, became a massive impact there. Came on to really settle the ship when things weren't going well in games. The 2014 All-Ireland quarter-final against Armagh really stands out. When Donegal were on the verge of going out against Kieran McGinney's men, Toy came on and changed
Paul Grimley's men.
Yeah, Paul Grimley's men, sorry. Yeah, McGinney came in after that, good point. McGinney was in the line that day. That was just one of Toy's many days that stood out for me. 2012 as well, he was brilliant. So he's the other selection for me.
The other great thing about Christy Toy is the amount of trouble he had getting himself fit, because he had different sort of off-field issues, didn't he? I'm trying to think, was there a health issue at one stage and maybe plenty of injuries? Maybe it was mostly injuries, but he definitely had hell trying to get himself back on the field, and what a player he became. I wonder
when Brian McGyver was there with Gilmore's groin, which is apparently a very complex injury to try and get over it. So I know that was at him, and then there's other different problems that circulated from that too. And he was fairly pushing on by the time McGuinness came on board as well. So to still produce at that level at the age that he was really was the mark of the footballer he was too.
I'm not suggesting this man now to be in consideration for it, but do you remember Ryan Bradley was such a key part of that team back in 2012, and I think he went abroad at that point. Jeez, I remember after that game against Kildare in 2011 at the press conference with Jim McGuinness, he was talking about how they were trying to bring him on to the next level. You know, the way they talked about the amount of meals that they were putting into certain players, and how Ryan Bradley was a project and all that. We saw how good he was. Do you think he could have, if he was around long enough, that he could have been in this discussion?
Yeah, definitely, Shane. Yeah, he was a magnificent player. Again, huge in 2012, and he was a great link man between the midfield and the forwards too. He could play midfield or in the half forward line. Great strength and great engine as well. He always emptied the tank. He's actually living in Qatar now. He's working with fellow Tipperary man Peter Atchison over there. So I don't think he's playing any football now at the minute. He probably was spent after all the football he played over here and how taxing it was to get to that level in the training that they were doing under Jim McGuinness. So he would definitely warrant a mention in the conversation for sure.
Michael Verney, anyone missing there now that you're perturbed by?
Just Mark McHugh hasn't come into our conversation yet. Obviously, an all-star, he probably maybe would have come into the conversation as a defender, maybe as a wing back. But obviously, he wore 12 in 2012 when they won the All Ireland, so he definitely deserves a mention in there. Probably best known as the sweeper. If you're going to play him on the team, you'd probably have to play nearly a 7 defender and set up that way. Maybe that's the way. Maybe that's the way we should have set up, because that was the way that they set up this team did under McGuinness. It's funny because I chatting Jason off air before we started, and I told him I was delighted that Adrian Sweeney was in his team because he was absolutely sweet. He was such a lovely left foot. But when push comes to shove, I couldn't have Cavan out of the team, and Murphy shifts up to the forward line. I couldn't have Adrian Sweeney wing forward, because if we're taking actual positions, he wouldn't have played wing forward. I don't think he ever played wing forward. He always nearly had 13 on his back and was that poacher inside. And I was chatting Colin McFadden the other day, and he said, like, before McGuinness came in, the full forward line in particular, like they made an effort to track back till about the 30-yard line, and then they just let the players off. And Sweeney would have been one of those players where he was an attacker, and that's all he was. So I couldn't have him wing forward. If he was on the team, he'd be number 13. So I'd be putting Murphy in centre forward, Michael Hegarty wing forward, and Christy Tye the other wing, with Adrian Sweeney losing out.
Let's let Jason respond to that, because you wanted to get in on Adrian Sweeney there.
Yeah, I can definitely see where Mick's coming from as well, and like the Rory Kavanagh call was a massive one, in fairness. It was absolutely huge. Like, but I just fancied that front six. Like, when you see the inside line, maybe you'll see where I was coming from as well. Because that inside line is just devastating. Like, and I couldn't warrant dropping any of them or the three lads behind them either. So that was simply my line of thinking. But I can definitely see where Mick's coming from there too.
Well, bring us on to the inside forward line.
Yeah, so Paddy McBrearty, absolute wand of a left foot, needs no introduction. Had an All-Ireland medal under his belt, just after he'd gotten his Leaving Cert results. Been such an integral thing to Donegal's success under McGuinness as well. Made his debut in 2011 when he was just 17. They played Antrim that day in Balmafay. He played in the minor game that day too, and that's how good he was. Just McGuinness was just like throw him in. Couldn't get away with that now, of course, but he was a massive loss when he fell to that cruciate injury against Fermanagh in the Ulster final nearly 2 years ago now as well. Like, his loss was so sorely felt, and Donegal ended up going out in the Super 8s then. So he was a no-brainer for me, and he probably ended up Donegal. He could end up Donegal's all-time top scorer by the time he retires, because he's still so young as well. Brendan Devaney is a full forward, one of those lads as well. So unfortunate not to win any championship silverware, just that league title in 2007. Devaney actually was one of the lads who responded to the article and sent me a text, and he was just delighted with himself to be selected. But I don't think anyone would argue with his selection. He was
high praise getting picked in your team. High praise indeed.
I know, yeah. He was the superstar before Michael Murphy came on the scene, and he was Murphy's hero. So that says it all about him. Like, he was just an absolute blistering forward. He was so dangerous. Defenders must have absolutely hated trying to mark him. Like, he'd turn in a sixpence and you wouldn't know what he'd produce out of his back pocket. Benny in there all day for me. And then on the other side, Nick mentioned in there, Colin McFadden, who is Donegal's all-time top championship scorer. He got 25 goals and 434 points in total from league and championship football. Played 170 times for the county. A lot of people would have questioned his attitude and his temperament before McGuinness came in, but maybe it did take his brother-in-law to come in and settle him a wee bit. And again, nominee for Footballer of the Year in 2012. Scored a vital goal in the final and that whole summer just terrorised defenders. He scored 1-4 in that final, but like that was just one of so many seasons he soldiered with the county. So he was the last man and nailed on there at number 15.
Who was unlucky to miss out on the forward line, other than the guys we've already mentioned and Rory Kavanagh, of course?
Brian Roper would probably get a mention. He was a small, tenacious forward from Ballyshannon again, missed out and all that success under McGuinness as well. Excellent servant to the county. He's involved as a coaching officer now and still doing great work for GA in the county too. So
I remember him as a centre forward mostly.
Yeah. A lot of people would have come in the conversation as well, but bar him, and maybe moving Murphy upwards and tinkering with the team that way, it was a fairly nailed down front six for me. And again, that's why I had Murphy in midfield. I just had to pick that front six.
Michael Verney, what do you think?
I'm wondering if Jason had his time back and the Irish Sun was going to print tomorrow and he could make any change. In hindsight, would he make any change?
I would like to get Damien Dever probably in there somewhere. It was an intensely tough call. I'd done a piece a week or two beforehand of great footballers that never won in All-Ireland, and Dever was actually on my team for that selection. So maybe that weighed in there that I'd already picked him for that. I'm not sure, but if I had time to put more thought into it, maybe I would have brought him in there somewhere. But it was such a painstaking and time-consuming project. It was so tough, some of the calls, but it generated a lot of debate and a lot of hope from people all around the county and beyond, and that's what it's all about. When we have nothing else, when we have no live action to report on. So
yeah, you can see the look on your face, how much pain you're going through even discussing it. Right, thanks very much, lads. We'll chat again soon.